So first, Orgonite was invented by Karl Hans Wells, who's an Austrian. And Orgonite is a mixture of catalyzed epoxy resin with metal shavings, particles, or powders poured into molds. It attracts orgone energy similar to Reich's accumulator boxes. Some people also add quartz crystals to the mixture to enhance the performance of the Orgonite. And like you were just mentioning before about some of the New Age communities,
yes,
right? They've taken a scientific thing,
yes,
and with myth and lore and misdirection, they've created all kinds of stuff. So we just want to read the statement here. So in recent years, the New Age movement and occultists have done a lot to discredit the science of Orgonite. There have been wild, outlandish claims that Orgonite can do all manner of supernatural things, from opening cosmic portals to communicating with little green men. We hope to clear this up by explaining the basic scientific effects that Orgonite has and how you can use Orgonite to clean the environment around you.
Yes.
So this is really important because we want to make sure that this particular presentation of technology does not have a religious or strictly spiritual foundation to it. We want to show you the science, the things you can measure with instruments.
Independent of what you believe,
exactly.
This stuff works.
Exactly.
And it can be replicated over and over and over again.
So we're gonna give you a scientific explanation that we put together that tells you how Orgonite works.
Orgone energy is that's the term that was discovered by the late Dr. Wilhelm Reich back in the 1930s, 1940s, and it is basically the energy that is in life in general, in all living things. Now this has been a scientific discovery. When Reich came across this discovery, he had to create certain kinds of equipment in order to detect this energy. It's very similar and has a component to it that is considered bioelectric in nature. Mm-hmm. So there's an electrical component to it, but it's something more. It's like a complex field, and this field can be observed, it can be seen. Reich did a couple of tests early on, creating something called accumulators. Now these were chambers or boxes, and these boxes were composed with layers of metal and non-metal. Now the non-metal part had to have an organic or carbon component to it. So when you layer the walls of this box with these layers, he observed a change in temperature from the outside and what was inside the box. And he did more observations. And one of them was this, what he called orgone energy. And this is like a vital force. It's something that is in all life. And he did tests such as put samples of blood inside these chambers, compared to samples of blood outside the chamber.
And you could see it too, right? If you put it under a microscope, you could see a blue, like it's almost like an aura, like it's a field, an energy field that's visible around a blood cell.
Yes, that's right.
It's a blue color. So we use blue to try to like represent that in a lot of our materials when we talk about this. But it's fascinating stuff.
It is. It's like the vital force. It can be observed, and it's the thing that allows and invigorates, keeps things more invigorated and gives it energy, like more life energy. So the technology has moved on since Reich, and the orgone products that you see out there are kind of the offshoot from this research.
So basically, I just want to say that, so Wilhelm Reich started the whole thing.
Right.
Many people have developed it since then. And what we're talking about is the ability to observe the life force around everything in nature, around people, around plants and animals, and the life force in the air. So it's part of the world we live in creation, right?
That's right.
It's just observing it. And this is a science. And the technology is basically taking components that you put together that create an effect that you can measure.
Yes.
So there's like Tavon was saying, there's been tests that have been done with blood cells where they take blood cells and they can measure the effect that orgone energy has on blood cells. So in a lot of ways, it's like it keeps it keeps your youth, it keeps the life force around something, so
Yes.
it stops things from decaying.
Right.
So it stops the body from decaying and the blood from decaying, but it also preserves food and stops food from decaying.
That's right.
So these
Yes.
are the scientific elements that we're talking about here when it comes to orgone technology. Also, there's another presentation out there that that has been done by Organize Africa, which is another group, and they show all different kinds of tests and studies that have been done as far as the environment, as far as, because you can take orgone energy and you can create weather effects with it.
Yes.
So you could use it to stop chemtrails or stop certain energy patterns in the air. Right. So basically, that is what we're talking about when we're talking about orgone energy and orgone technology. And the
Right.
reason why we're bringing it up this way is because we really want to make sure that we separate any of separate the science from a belief system.
Right. Yeah, that's
and
right.
Just as a bit of a disclaimer in the very beginning of our chat here is orgone is this is a science that we're talking about. We're talking about the science that can be measured behind it. We're not talking about a belief system. So we've gotten a few comments like, orgone is like some magical thing, or it's this isn't something that you believe.
Yes.
Or can be debunked because it's a belief system. It's not really new agey, even though there's a lot of new agey stuff around it sometimes. This is just, we want to focus on the science that can be measured by observing an effect in nature.
Yes, that's
and
right.
How you take natural ingredients, different stones and rocks, put them in a powder, put them together in an epoxy, and it creates a scientific effect.
So the things that the true orgone-based products that are out there today are literally an improvement on what Reich was working on through the scientific method. Now, in this day, again, it was layers of metal and non-metal. And so when you make chambers of different shapes and different sizes, you got this effect. It doesn't matter what you believe in, doesn't all these other things. The fact is, when you created a chamber like this, you can you can leave and you can have instrumentation to measure the effects, whether you put plants in or blood in,
Right.
Whatever the variations in temperature of what's in the chamber and outside the chamber. This is independent. This is what true scientific method is tests that were done that could be replicated over and over and over again. So all the stuff that we're talking about today are things that you can make yourself, and you can observe these effects. So that's what the beauty is.